this is the job that you wanted. And I kept feeling like there was something really wrong with me that I couldn't make it work. When I got really clear on my values, it was very, very obvious that all of this stuff that I had been working for the past 5 years was no longer important to me because I was a parent. What I am passionate about is coaching parents through different parts of their life. Whenever you have a child, there is an actual survival mode that you have to go into. You're so much more resourceful than you give yourself credit for because it doesn't have to follow a blueprint.
Welcome to The Human Experience. I'm Jennifer Peterkin, and this is episode 29, Karen's Story. Karen was the person that was convinced that parenthood wouldn't fundamentally change her, until it did. After achieving her goals didn't align with her values anymore, Karen decided on a 180-degree turn. These days, Karen's focus is helping other parents discover their identity within the framework of parenthood through her coaching business, Jane DeWitt Coaching, and her podcast, Juggling Joy. You can find links to Karen's podcast, website, and social handles in the show notes. Thank you for doing this. I was listening to some of your podcasts, and you just started. Mm-hmm. You just launched. Mm-hmm. Are you doing weekly release?
No, I started out with once a month, and it just felt like so long between episodes. Yeah. I started doing twice a month.
Okay, yeah.
But I don't know that I have enough people on deck to do it twice a month.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
So we'll just see how it goes. I'm trying not to be too precious about it, you know?
Sure. No, I think you're right. Just getting going is the most important part.
Yes.
And the hardest
I've learned
part.
So much. And I've only recorded maybe 10 episodes. I've released 6.
Mm-hmm.
And I already feel like a natural shift where I'm like, okay, I think we've told that story enough times because all these same themes are coming up in every episode.
Yeah.
And I think it's time now to take a topic first approach because I was doing a guest first approach.
Yeah.
And that'll give me an opportunity too to bring in more of my coaching.
Sure. Because I imagine that when you are talking about parenting, there are a lot of common or reoccurring themes. Like people deal with a lot of the same issues, which is why a podcast about parenting would resonate so well, right? It is common because everybody has to go through it kind of thing.
Well, and it's funny how the themes emerged. Several themes have emerged, but everybody has a different flavor of them. Everybody has a story about switching tasks. That is one of the biggest challenges for moms, especially where they're wearing all these hats. So they're like, 1 minute they're CEO of their company, and then the next minute they're wiping a booty.
Yeah.
And then the next minute, the phone rings, just like I was doing earlier when the daycare called and we're doing this and that. And it's the switching gears all the time that people have a hard time with.
Yeah.
And some people have their strategy my first guest was one of my best friends, and she's like, I need maybe 1 or 2 hours to, to decompress and meditate. And then other people are like, I take 2 deep breaths, and then I go, it's the same thing, but everybody has kind of their different way of meeting that need for themselves.
Yeah, in different levels, for sure. I think it's interesting too. I mean, full disclosure, I'm not a parent. I am a very, very proud aunt, and it is my favorite title, but it is completely different. But I think it also highlights how different people can be. Like, we all have different thresholds and we all thrive with different things, and other things make us feel more burdened. And so it's important to recognize that it's not a one size fits all, right?
Exactly. And your children are all different. Anybody who's had more than one can attest to how, one child comes out and they're like this, and then you have the other one and they're completely different. And so the skills that you have may not match that child. So you've got to stretch yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So your podcast is called Juggling Joy.
Juggling Joy.
Which I love your tagline, the juggle is real. I laughed out loud. I thought that was really clever. So take me through how you got here. Like, obviously you're a mom, but what prompted you to create this podcast? And then I know you also have your coaching business as well. Or you can talk about the coaching first, whichever makes more sense to you.
Yeah, I think it does make sense. I'm long-winded sometimes.
That's fine.
So
I have time.
With the podcast specifically, I had wanted a podcast for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And I have this very long Google Doc of brainstorming where I'm like, okay, here's all the things I'm passionate about. I really wanted to have one about food for a while. I wanted to interview some chefs, but I just couldn't think of a topic that was close enough to home that I could put in the hours and the time, because I had an inkling that it would take up quite a bit of time. And I'm kind of a born entertainer. I love to entertain, and I also love to hear people's stories and listen. So I kind of just put it on the back burner and was like, this will happen when it's supposed to happen. And then pretty recently, maybe back in like February, I was at a Valentine's Day networking party with a bunch of other women. And I just kind of was like, hey, I've always wanted to have this podcast. Maybe I could interview parents because that's who I coach. And this whole group of women that I had just met that day were all my cheerleaders, and were like, I want to be on your podcast. And my husband has a studio that you can use. And,
oh, wow.
Oh, maybe you can borrow our microphone and I'll be a guest on your podcast. And do you need a co-host for your podcast?
That's awesome.
And I left that party, felt so juiced up. And I felt like, okay, this is everything aligning for this to happen finally.
Yeah.
I have my topic. I have other people excited about it. And so I was like, this has to happen right away. I have to strike while the iron is hot. So not knowing a whole lot about podcasting, except for I'd been down a few rabbit holes, but I was like, I would rather just put out something imperfect and learn along the way than just sit on this idea forever and ever.
Oh, yeah. I 100% agree. Because first of all, you're never going to know what you need to know without doing it. Like, you can read all of the articles in the world and all of the books, whatever. I have been planning this podcast since 2020. And I have been on a journey and written and rewritten the script per se. And I did spend the last year doing interviews, like creating a backlog of interviews, which I am glad I did. But the process to actually like hit that button, I literally had to announce it to keep myself accountable. I was like, this January, I am launching this podcast. I put it out there. And I'm not exaggerating, I released it January 31st at 11:55 p.m. I was like, okay, here we go. I have to now. I can't tweak it anymore. I can't listen to it anymore. Like, I have to release it. And I'm so glad I did, because I agree with you. An imperfect product is better than no product.
Exactly. It's part of the process, is learning from doing it wrong.
Yeah, for sure.
As painful as that is, and especially when you're sharing it with an audience. But I did the same thing with the self-enforced deadlines.
Yeah.
Where I invited someone to come on my podcast, not having any of the software, not having anything straightened out, not knowing how it was going to work out. But I was like, we're doing this on X day. I'll figure it out. And by golly, I did. And so every time I record, I learn something, and then I use it on the next episode.
Yes.
So it is a progression. It's not as fast as I want it to be. And of course, if I spent a ton of money on it, it would go faster, but
sure,
I'm not getting paid to do this. I just love it.
Yeah, I think that's great. And your niche is something very necessary. I mean, there are obviously a lot of parents and people looking for stories, and people looking for, in particular, stories that they can relate to. So I imagine that it's a very necessary topic that you cover.
It is. And the most important value that I wanted to bring out was honesty and joy. Those two, because you can get honest and things can get really dark really fast.
Yeah.
And I've been a part of some mom groups that things get negative, things get judgmental, people get judgmental about themselves. It's just very easy to let those emotions overtake you and become kind of a victim to your circumstances.
Sure.
What I wanted to show people was that we can have a sense of humor about this.
Yeah.
Like, let's laugh about ourselves. Let's laugh about these circumstances that we're in. And let's laugh about these ridiculous children that we have that, you know, they run our lives. And it's just so odd. I guess I just wanted to show people that, you know, it doesn't always have to feel so heavy.
Yeah.
Even though the things that we're dealing with are very hard.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you run a coaching business. And how long have you had that?
So I have been coaching for about 2 years.
Okay.
And I started back in 2021. Yeah, it's hard to remember.
That whole time.
Yeah.
It's just...
Yeah. So I've been coaching for about 2 years.
Okay.
And I was doing it on the side for a while I was doing certification. So I got my certification through the Coactive Training Institute. And it's pretty intense. First, you take 4 or 5 months of courses. They're like curriculum. And then you take a 6-month hands-on supervised certification. So by the time you're graduated and you get your certification, there's an exam at the end. You have coached at least 100 hours and you've taken over 100 hours of coursework and you actually know how to coach. There's always, always, always room to grow, but at least you have the foundation. It was really important for me when picking a course to take, not just to pick the one that's like, you can become a certified coach in a weekend.
Sure.
Like this is an actual skill and there are muscles that you need to exercise and build in order to actually do a good job and like hold space for another person and their growth and their opportunity.
Yeah. I love hearing that. I'm very unfamiliar with that field of coaching in general. I've never done it and I've never worked with somebody that's done it. So I'm very new in terms of like what that entails and what the parameters are. But I love that there was such intention put into, you know, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it well. And I'm not here to just like give somebody fluff. I want to actually work with them on what they need to work on. So what is your coaching business?
So my coaching business it's just my name, Karen Jane DeWitt Coaching. So what I am passionate about is coaching parents through different parts of their life. Whenever you have a child, there is an actual survival mode that you have to go into.
Yeah.
You know, your hormones have changed, your whole life has changed, your identity changes, so many things change all at once. And it takes a little while to get out of that. And sometimes when parents are starting to see those clouds part, they're left with, oh my God, who am I now? How do I get back to the person that I was when I'm no longer that person? Or the things that they were fighting for before don't really seem that important. Career is a big one. People feel like, oh God, I don't want to go back to that job that doesn't serve me anymore, or it doesn't fit into my life now. That was a really, really big one for me.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I help people go through those transitions and kind of rebuild their identity and who they are and what they want to contribute to the world and how to take care of themselves, because they've been so stuck in a mode of taking care of this child out of necessity. They have to do it. And then they kind of forget what they need.
I love that. So I imagine though that was born out of your own experience.
Yes.
I mean, what was that like becoming a mother and kind of having these experiences for the first time to then lead into something that you're going to build a business out of it?
Yeah. So back in 2018, I was working the career that I had, I had been thinking about this. I wanted to do this. I hit the ground running. I was working at a grocery chain here in Texas. If you're here in Texas, you probably know what it is. And they have like a set of higher end stores. And so I was working at one of those stores and I am a hardcore foodie. Like food is my love language.
Okay.
So I had this kind of dream job where I was able to work with food, talking about food, trying food all day long. We're smelling it, we're tasting it, we're experiencing it. And it was such an awesome culture. So I worked my way up through the management program and this took about 5 years. And I was like kind of just sitting and waiting for my big promotion. There aren't a lot of those stores around. So I always kind of knew that if I was going to get this promotion, I would probably have to move to Dallas. And I was okay with that. My husband's from Dallas. So we're like, we can make that work, right?
Yeah.
So I have a baby And I'm going through all of this management training and everything pregnant, and I'm very idealistic. Like, I'm going to get this promotion and provide for my family, and it's going to be amazing. And I'm going to be a career woman. I'm not going to let parenthood change me. No way. So then I finally get my promotion, and it almost came as a shock. Even though I had been expecting it, they kind of sprung it on me. It was like, okay, come up to the office and here's a piece of paper, sign it.
Oh.
So I went outside and I called my husband and was like, oh my God, it's happening. And he's like, well, we can always try. So thank God, my husband is so balanced and level-headed. Thank you, Jeremy.
Good.
So we're like, all right, let's do this. So we moved to Dallas. My son is about 8 or 9 months old at this time. And one thing led to another. I was very eager. I had no work boundaries, and I was working. The minimum was 50 hours a week.
Wow.
That stretched into 60 hours a week. Sometimes around the holidays, I was working 70 hours a week. And it just felt like there was no end in sight. Like, this is the job. This is the job that you wanted. And I kept feeling like there was something really wrong with me that I couldn't make it work. How could all of these other managers around me do this job and not even break a sweat, where I feel like a chicken with my head cut off? And I kept looking around too, thinking like, it's a lot of men whose wives don't work and they take care of their children, or it's women who chose to be childless. Not a lot of moms. I mean, I looked all around and there were almost no mothers in my position. And I was determined, and I kept thinking it was my fault. And I just needed to work harder, be stronger, be more focused. And my friend, bless her heart, I think she was tired of me complaining. And so she's like, hey, I have this life coach. And I'm like, whatever, like, I'll call her. Like, I'm already in therapy. I'm already working out all the time. I'm sleeping all the time. Like, I'm doing every single thing I know that usually works, and none of this is working. It's not getting any easier. So sure, I'll give her a call. So next thing I know, I'm working with this coach over the phone. I never even met her, and she changed my life forever.
Wow.
What I thought she was going to do is tell me how to do my life better, Yeah. And like, a lot of people, when they think of coaching, they think of that, like, oh, you're going to teach me how to live.
Okay. Yeah.
And I thought she was going to like give me some strategies and stuff. And she didn't. She basically turned me inward and said, what's important to you? What are your values? She gave me all this language for my internal world that I didn't have before. And when I got really clear on my values, it was very, very obvious that all of this stuff that I had been working for the past 5 years was no longer important to me because I was a parent. I needed to provide for my family, yes, but not at the expense of spending time with them.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't spending any time at home. I was working nights, mornings, weekends, holidays, you name it. And just that one little shift, it's like she gave me a tool that I could use forever, for the rest of my life, to decide what I wanted to focus on and what I wanted to spend my time on and what was really important to me. And she made it really clear too that your values can shift over time. You're not born with a set of values. You don't inherit them from your family. They're yours.
Yeah.
And you can take a little bit of time, maybe every 6 months or a year, or after a big life change, to reevaluate what's important to you and adjust as needed.
Yeah.
And before that, I was not going to adjust for anybody.
Was there almost this sense of like, I've said that this is what I want for so long. If I give up now, it's a failure?
Absolutely. So that career was one of many careers. And if anyone is listening out there that has done a lot of stopping and starting in their career and pivoted, just know that the pivoting is not a problem. It is not a problem. It's actually part of the process. But I didn't know that at the time. I thought that it was yet another failure. Like, if I have to move back to Austin, which I did, if I move back to Austin and I give up this career that I wanted so badly, one, it's embarrassing. Two, it is just yet another failure to add to my I went to grad school for sociology, and then, I didn't do anything with that. I didn't finish. I actually made straight A's and then just dropped out because it wasn't for me. And I thought that was a failure because I should have finished anyway. And then there was this career. And then I also had a business before that failed. And I was beating myself up. And so there was a period, even after I got this really beautiful insight with this coach, that I came back to Austin and I fell into a pretty low place because I had to grieve this career. So I thought this career was it.
Yeah.
And I got a sales job. I started working in an office for the first time. And that was an adjustment because I'm like a go, go, go on my feet kind of person. I like to be always moving and putting out fires. And just sitting at a desk all day was very challenging, but I was up to the challenge because I wanted that stability for my family and the routine. But what I learned was that I'm pretty good at selling. I also learned that I really, really, really love talking to people.
Okay.
Because this job was over the phone and I was selling Medicare insurance to seniors. And it was the best. I don't know how I got so lucky because a lot of sales jobs are really, really, really bad. And I got really lucky that this was my first one and that I enjoyed speaking to these people. It's like I was making friends on the phone all the time. And then, next year when it's time for them to renew their policy, they'd call me up. Karen, can you help me? We'd have these great conversations and then I was getting paid to do it. So even though I didn't like that structure that much, I was learning something. So I was always having to focus on, what this was giving me, not what it was taking away from me.
Yeah. I relate so much to what you're saying because I am also that pivot person. I didn't go to college. I was enrolled 2 weeks before I was supposed to go. I pulled out because I was like, I am not excited about this at all. I do not want to go. I've always struggled in school, but love trying new things and learning new things and doing hands-on stuff. I started a business when I was a senior in high school. I did that for a few years. It failed, got another job, spent time doing that, left the nonprofit to go work with another nonprofit, got married, got divorced, all over the place, went back to work with this nonprofit, thought it was going to be like at least a decade-long partnership, ended up leaving after a year, was grieving that, went into the job I'm working now, but really having a hard time not feeling like a failure a lot of the time, right?
Yeah.
Because it feels like so many people are watching you because you're the person that goes and does. And so it always feels like, even if they're supporting you and you're like, I don't want to let this person down again. And that's not necessarily how they feel about you, but it's how you're projecting that, right? And I really struggled for the last couple of years, probably just coming to this realization of I was really unhappy, but I didn't understand that why I was unhappy was because I didn't want to be in this box structured life. I wanted to live in a different way. I really wanted to prioritize travel. I'm single. I don't have any children. And I'm watching all of my peers have that life, which is great. But I wanted something different. And because I didn't have those attachments, I could theoretically do that. But it was really hard for me to break out of the mindset of this is okay to want. It's okay to want something completely different for your life. Yeah.
I think too, when you're living by your own rules, it's harder to find a blueprint for your life and almost that validation that like, this is all going to work out.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of faith. And that is the hardest part of being an entrepreneur, is having the faith that all the work that you're putting in, all the hours that you're putting in this podcast, all of the networking events that you're going to, all of the just unpaid stuff that you're doing will turn into something in the future is so hard. It's work. It's work to stay focused. It's work to stay regulated, because I can very easily get so worried and so focused on the future that I miss what's right in front of me. And I get into that like panicky doing stuff phase when I actually need to be doing less. Because the things that I'm doing aren't actually going to bring me business and aren't actually good for me.
Yeah. It's like a hamster wheel almost.
Yes.
You're just spinning.
Yes. I can very easily get on that hamster wheel.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also feel like it's difficult sometimes when everything feels like it's supposed to be a certain way. There's like a standard that you're quote unquote supposed to live up to, and you actively move outside of that standard, not feeling like everybody's waiting for you to mess up or waiting for you to fail. And I imagine that with the work that you do inside of parenting specifically, that is probably something that you come across quite a bit, because a lot of people have stuff to say about parenting and what you should and shouldn't be doing. And there's so much noise. So how do you help people cut through that to really value their own intuition and their own drive and purpose?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I believe that we have a lot of internal tools that we're not aware of. And when you get really clear on what's available to you, you're able to more easily find yourself, find what's important, and block out that noise. So in my coaching, we talk a lot about saboteurs, and that's also called the inner critic. There's lots of different words for it. But essentially, every human being has that negative, judgmental voice in their head. And we have many different versions of it too. You may have one that sounds like your mom, or one that sounds like your dad, or one sounds like both of them put together. You may have one that sounded like your ex-boyfriend. You may have one that sounds like someone from your church. You may have one that, is a little bit more like a rebellious teenager. And once you get to know those voices in your head and know that that's not you, those are scripts that you've inherited or that benefited you in some way at some time, then you can have a little bit more choice, right? It's not like that part of you is running the show anymore. That part of you can be used when it's needed, or it can be lovingly told, no, thank you, not right now.
Yeah.
That is kind of where we start with coaching, because that mom guilt, the feeling that you're failing no matter what you're doing, no matter how hard you're trying, no matter how healthy your child is, no matter how good you have it, there's always that kind of nagging feeling that you're failing. Once you start to get to know that voice, you've got a little more distance between you and it. You're not identifying with it anymore necessarily. Then the next layer of that is to find your leader within. And your leader within is, like in IFS, they would call it the integrated self, or in DBT, they call it the wise self. In this kind of coaching, it's called the leader within. This concept is not hard to find, but essentially it's like you at your core. It's the wisest part of you. It's the part that actually knows what's good for you. It's the part that can hold two things that are opposing to be true at the same time. We have glimmers of that in our lives. When you've got a problem, you're always like, oh, part of me wants to do this and part of me wants to do that. And sometimes those are our saboteurs. And you can say, okay, well, what does the wise part of you know? What do you know about this? And a lot of the time it's so obscured by these negative voices, this judgment, these shoulds, that we don't have access to it. But once we can parse those out, we have more access to that wise self.
Yeah.
And we can say, okay, actually, I don't have to move across the country to be happy. Okay, I don't actually have to feed my kid all organic food in order for them to be healthy. A lot of times we want to make like an extreme move to fix our lives, and there's usually something in the middle.
For sure.
Or it just takes more time than what you're giving it. And so that is where, once we kind of parse out all those saboteurs and the critics, that's where we spend most of our time in my coaching, is with that wise part of you. And the more you cultivate a relationship with that part of you, the more easily you can rely on it in the future when you have to make these really big decisions, or when maybe you are faced with moving across the country and you've got to make a decision in the next 2 weeks. And you can rely on that wise part of yourself. You can rely on your values. You can rely on your strengths. You have all of these resources available to you that you can use anytime. You just have to be aware of them.
I think too, something that I've noticed, especially within my own observation of things that I want that are outside of the norm, is that we attach morality to things that have no business being a moral issue.
Right.
And so there's this feeling like you're actually doing something wrong by wanting something different. And that feeling is so damaging and so difficult to overcome. And I don't know where it comes from. Like, I don't know why we all adopt these thinkings that like, oh, well, to want something different is wrong, but maybe you have more insight on that.
Yeah. We could take a deep dive.
I'm like, how much time do you have?
Yeah. Well, and the truth is it's different for every person. And when you start raising kids, you start to notice how easily you can implant these ideas into other people that are forming. And so it's it's a little crazy making whenever you realize like, oh, I've been carrying around this idea forever and ever. And then you say it to your kid and you're like, oh my God, I just told my kid I just sounded like my mom or whatever. I'm trying to think of an example, but I think a common one is with boys. I mean, my son, he's 5 years old. He cries all the time. And it's very easy when you're irritated and you're in a hurry and you've got dinner to cook and there's another child pulling at your pant leg to be like, okay, stop crying, dry it up. And then my husband, especially, he was told this a lot as a child. He's like, oh, wow, that's what messed me up, you know? And it's so easy to do that. And so with parenting, having that space, it's all about space. Having that little cushion between you and that voice to say, okay, I recognize that voice. That's not helpful in this situation. Let's use something different.
And I imagine too, somebody hearing this for the first time is kind of like, that's nice. But like when I'm in the thick of it, I wouldn't be able to differentiate at that point. I imagine it's very much done by practice, right? Like it is a muscle that you have to stretch to be able to get there. And so it is something that you're consciously working towards.
It is. And we use a lot of physical reminders of things. I'm a big believer in the power of metaphors. So a lot of the time in coaching, we will spend time with those ugly voices or with that wiser self. And the mind is a beautiful thing. I mean, people will come up with all kinds of amazing metaphors where they're like, it feels like I'm standing at the edge of an ocean and there's an ocean of possibility in front of me and I can feel the sand beneath my toes and I can smell the salt in the air. And we can use that to help them remember that beautiful place where they were very in touch with that wiser self. So it's like, okay, well, what can you use? How can you remember that? How are you going to set yourself up so that you have access to that? So people will put on a piece of jewelry that will remind them, or Post-it notes. People leave Post-it notes around their house that tell them to question things, question those little voices that say, oh, you're so lazy. Well, is that true? You know, maybe you just put a Post-it note up that says, is that true, on your door? And every time you get upset, you think, oh, wait, is that true? And then after a while, after you've practiced it enough, you don't need that external reminder. It's in you.
I mean, repetition has to be the most valuable piece of that, I guess, because you're fighting against possibly years of being told the opposite of that. Yeah. There's a lot there.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's like a whole web that we could weave today.
So, you know, you spoke to someone, you had a life coach, and you found that this was so helpful that it was something that you wanted to get into. Like, how did you bridge that gap of, I've done this for myself, now I want to help other people do this?
Yeah. So whenever I was working in sales and then the pandemic happened and I was working from home, I had my second child and I knew that I didn't want to have any more kids. So it was like, okay, I don't have to rely so hard on this like 9 to 5 for like the health insurance and everything. So I started taking coaching courses because I felt like sales is great. I'm good at it. It pays the bills. It provides the structure. However, it doesn't honor the whole of me. The part of me that wants to make a lasting impact on people's lives, that doesn't honor that. You know, I can help them in a transactional way and like have a good conversation, but that's not what I want in life. What I want is to have the same impact that my coach had on me, where she opened up a whole new world of possibilities to me. And I started researching coaching programs and reaching out to people that I knew who had either been coached or had coached themselves. And I found this training program. And like I mentioned earlier, it was really important to me that it actually teach me how to coach. I was like, I can figure out the business part of it, but this skill of holding space for people and giving them insight, you can't just infuse it into people. It has to be an experience, right? So that was really important to me. I started doing that on the side while I was working my sales job. And I had a plan last summer. It's actually been exactly a year. It's June, and that was last June. I had a plan to quit that job and fully launch my coaching business. And then I got laid off.
Oh. Oh, wow.
I got laid off, and it was in a real estate company. So the rates went up and the company had to do lots and lots of downsizing.
Mm-hmm.
So it was this crazy thing. I mean, getting laid off, if you've ever been laid off, it's a bit of a roller coaster. But my first reaction was, oh my God, it's happening. This is what I wanted.
Yeah.
And now I didn't have to quit this job. It quit for me.
Yeah.
So I was very excited, and I just went kind of all in. I was still in certification at the time. So I was like, this allows me to coach more. I'll have more time to coach and get my hours and take certification and do all these things. And then guess what happened? The fear creeped in. Fear creeped in.
Nasty.
What we were talking about earlier, that not having an example to draw from, not having that faith that it would all work out, really got me. And I was in a very anxious place. And so I did what I always do, which I got a job, and I'd always kind of wanted to try recruiting. And so I got this job, but it was in office 5 days a week in Austin. So I had to drive. I live in the suburbs, so I had to drive every day. And that stark contrast between having a few months to just live my life, focus on coaching, figure out who I am, what I want when I'm not in a job, was juxtaposed with working in an office, being stuck there, spending 10 hours of your day either on the road or in an office, packing every single thing you're going to eat for the day. I felt like I was going on a trip every single day. I was like, I can't believe we used to do this, because I hadn't done it for a while because I worked remotely. It was like, this is too much. Mm-hmm. This is absolutely too much. So I got wise again and I quit that job. Since then, so many opportunities have arisen. I mean, the opportunity to do the podcast that I do, the opportunity to meet awesome people where I live is amazing. I have been able to coach people on my schedule. I get to structure my day the way that I want to. I've also found part-time work to supplement that is very flexible that I didn't think existed before. And I don't remember what your question was, but my point is sometimes it's natural to have that fear and to have that feeling like it's not going to work out. And it's totally okay. Mm-hmm. You can have that fear. And there's a wiser part of you that you can tap into that is like, hey, there are other options available.
Yeah.
You can actually become a substitute teacher and make your own schedule. You can actually bake pies for your friend's wedding and make a little bit of money that way. You're so much more resourceful than you give yourself credit for, because it doesn't have to follow a blueprint, like the most available blueprint that you're looking around and seeing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's important because the fear does take over, and it's so easy to just be like, all right, I'm just going to do this because I can kind of shut my brain off and know that at least I'm going through the motions, and on the outside, it looks like what it's supposed to. And I don't say that in any disparaging way. I think we all are very susceptible to getting caught up in that. And it also depends on what your experience is too. It may feel like entrepreneurship isn't even available to you. So yeah, I think it's important to learn and to talk about. Coming back to your niche of helping parents, Do you have more moms that you coach versus dads? And why do you think that is? And talking about identity shifting and stuff like that, do you find that women have a more difficult time or a more extreme shift than most men do?
It's a good question. So I do have more mom clients. I also have clients who are non-binary. They don't call themselves mom. They don't call themselves dad. They're gender fluid.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the main reasons that I haven't gone into just I'm a coach for moms.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Okay.
there's a whole section of queer people who fall through the cracks because when things are marketed directly towards moms, they don't feel like that's them. And so they don't get the help that they need.
Gotcha.
So it was a very important, even though I essentially coach mostly moms, it was important for me to leave that open so that those people that fall through the cracks or don't think of themselves as a mom can get the help that they need too. And I have also coached dads.
Yeah.
And I will say that the things that dads struggle with have been different in my experience. So dads, I feel, and again, this is only from my perspective, there's probably a lot more complete information about this out there. As this person with a sociology background, I know not to like overgeneralize.
Yeah, pigeonhole it.
Yes, but my experience with dads is a lot of that they want to have a good relationship with their spouse, and they are struggling with that. They're on the other side of the mom guilt. Like the mom is having the mom guilt and all of the identity crises and things. And then the dad is like just holding on for dear life. Like, I want this to work. I want this structure. I want my wife to be happy. I want my children to be happy. I don't want to mess things up like my parents did. A lot of men also feel disconnected. Like they feel like they're just kind of outside of their lives, living almost like witnessing their life from the outside, but they're not actually feeling it. They're not in it. It's like in times of distress, I feel like what is often available for men is just to disconnect. And they can still continue to go through the motions of going to work, having the job, doing the weekend thing, doing it again on Monday. And so for them, I feel like it's very easy to disengage. So I've worked with men on feeling, literally feeling, experiencing what is directly in front of them, getting present, and resisting the urge to disconnect when things get stressful. Mothers, on the other hand, I feel are so overwhelmed. They're in it. You know, I almost feel like they don't have the luxury of disconnecting because somebody is wanting them and needing them at all times. And so they have a million lists in their head of like, who's going to what camp? Who needs this food? Who needs that food? What time did the baby eat? Okay, it's time to change this person's diaper. Okay, did you need to go potty? We're potty training. Like there's just 100 million things going through their heads at all times. And so they, instead of losing connection with their world, they lose connection with themselves. And so when it's time for them to finally get a break, they either automatically just start feeling guilty. They don't like that crappy feeling. So maybe they go have a drink. Maybe they scroll on TikTok for 2 hours. I am very guilty of that. Maybe they don't have a healthy outlet for themselves. Maybe, you know, they try to journal, they open it up and like they're too tired to even get any words out. I think a lot of moms, they just need that special alone time to remember who they are besides just a caregiver. And I say this because I feel like people take it the wrong way sometimes. I don't think there's anything wrong with how moms are doing it. They're doing it that way because they have to.
Yeah.
We have to take care of these beings. And I think that there's also a way to do it that is more complete and that honors who you are as a person, who honors the social part of you, that honors the romantic part of you, that honors all the pieces of you, all the pieces that you've spent your whole life honoring. I think that we can't forget them. They're still there. And it takes intention to honor those pieces and those parts of you.
I love that. There is a lot there. And I like how simply you broke down the general difference that you see between moms and dads. Because I think it's unfair to say that dads don't have any struggle or crisis of identity, but it does play out very differently. And societally, generally, their roles are different. And so what they're allowed to do, what they have the luxury of doing is different than what a woman or a mom has the luxury of doing necessarily.
Exactly.
Just as a person observing, I have seen shifts in conversations around parenting and the roles that moms and dads have, and trying to bring dads along on a more inclusive, like active role within parenting. Have you seen that trend as well? Like, have you seen a more concentrated effort to bring dads into the fold like that?
I think so. I think that it very much depends on where you live.
That's true.
So I spent 18 years in Austin, and it's progressive. That's why I moved there.
Yeah.
But I do think in general, the wave is shifting, and I think that it has to happen. It has to happen.
Yeah.
Like moms, they can't do everything.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of moms are waking up to the fact that they shouldn't have to do everything, and they can't do everything. They have to honor these other parts of their lives too.
Yes.
It's funny how subtle it is too, because sometimes even in my marriage, like my husband is very hands-on. He was a nanny, and I knew this whenever I met him. He was a Hollywood nanny.
Not
Beverly Hills, actually.
I need to come back and interview your husband. That is fantastic.
Yeah. And I always saw him with his niece when she was little. And so I was confident that he wouldn't totally disengage. Like he would always step up as a dad, and he has 100%. And yet I have noticed even in our relationship, the subtle shift since I am now no longer working a job job because I'm home. It's like now I'm taking on not only more of the kids stuff, but just house stuff in general. Like it's kind of become my job to manage the money, to manage the administrative aspects of everything, of just remembering stuff and sorting through all the junk when the kids outgrow clothes. Like I put on a garage sale. I did every single thing. Like I did a big landscaping project last weekend, and I did it all. I planned it. I went and bought the stuff. I did everything. And it's like, I don't think that would be happening if I had a regular job. I think it has been a subtle shift where I have in some ways willingly taken on more as if I feel like it's my responsibility because I'm not working, even though I am working. I'm running a business, but I'm not working, quote unquote. So I have to take on all of this other stuff.
Right.
And he's somehow exempt from it because he's not here from 8 to 5.
Yeah.
It's kind of maddening because, you can feel like you're above it, or I'm not going to live my life like that.
Yeah.
And then you turn around and you're living like that.
You're in it. Yeah.
And so the antidote to that is intention and a conversation. Like it's going to require me being like, hey, honey, I have noticed XYZ. I would rather it be like XYZ. What do you think?
Yeah.
How does this affect you? And then we go from there. So I don't think that I'm a victim to this circumstance. I think that I've played a role in it, and he's played a role in it too. And it's totally changeable and doable and shiftable, and we can do that. Like that's within our power.
Yeah, absolutely. But the fact that you guys can come together and have that conversation is in itself the missing piece for so many women, right? Because I agree, it's easy to fall into patterns. Everybody is susceptible to falling into like unhealthy patterns of behavior, or not even unhealthy necessarily, but just like not the healthiest
or
patterns
just
of behavior.
Something that you don't want.
Yeah, exactly. But being aware enough to be able to identify them and have a conversation about that with your partner is, I would argue, the mark of a healthy relationship between you, but also as parents, versus I notice all of these things and I can't bring it up. I can't have a conversation. Or if I do, like, I'm basically going to be punished for it in some way.
Right.
Or shamed. And there's already so much of that around. And the conversation that I've noticed happening is like, it's just easier for me to do this, like to put up with it and just do it, than continue to have this fight and this conversation. So,
and in some ways it is.
Yeah.
It's like, which battle are you going to fight? The internal battle. Some people are more comfortable fighting that internal battle versus the external battle.
Yeah. So awesome.
I don't know if this is like the format that you usually have, but
yeah. Oh, yeah. It's always just a conversation,
Okay,
and it's
good.
like interviewee led.
I've loved this.
Oh, good.
I felt like we went a little backwards though. We should have started from the beginning. April 19th, 1984, a baby was born. No.
I've had stories told from like the middle, and then we go around in a circle to, start where we are now and work backwards. So, yeah.
It's interesting too how as an interviewer, your listening is so much different than if you were just like hanging out having a beer.
Yeah.
You listen so much more intently, and your curiosity is so much more at the forefront to where you can ask those follow-up questions that really get a lot of detail.
Yes.
And you remember more too.
That's true. Similarly to you, I love hearing people's stories. Mm-hmm. But when I'm in a social situation, I'm always like, do they want me? Like, am I allowed to ask this? Like, I don't want to offend them or make them feel like I'm putting them on the spot. Whereas with this, you're basically signing up to be put on the spot.
Right.
And I tell people, I will edit out anything you don't want to be heard. Yeah. And we don't have to talk about things. You will
heavily edit this episode.
But people just are okay with being vulnerable when it's the appropriate setting to do so. Right.
Yeah.
So
I'm also, I've never been diagnosed ADHD, but I have like a lot of sensory sensitivities. Mm-hmm. So if I'm out at a bar or, just like earlier, someone was mowing and I was just like, all I could think of was mowing. So being in a controlled environment, even though we do have mowers out, it's just so much easier for people to focus and to talk and feel like supported and held and not like they're going to be interrupted by a waiter coming over or.
Truly. I mean, there is something to a stream of consciousness that matters.
Yeah.
And even like you're out with multiple people and you and one person are having that conversation, and then a third party walks up and is like, hey, my beer's not cold enough. And you're like,
what are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
Well, where do we begin?
Yeah. It's definitely nice to have the controlled environment.
Yeah.
And I feel so humbled and fortunate that people trust me to do that, because I feel like I am getting away with something, to be perfectly honest. I'm like, I can't believe that people are letting me do this with their stories, that like they actually want to talk about it and go through this whole exercise. But what I've also found is that when you give people the opportunity, everybody really just wants to be heard.
Yes.
So
yes, people want to be heard and they want to know that they're not alone.
Yeah. Heard and understood for sure. So I do ask one question to everybody at the end of every episode, because this whole project started as partly as an exercise in compassion, realizing how our perspectives shift as we experience life and how our values change. So through the lens of your experience in particular, how do you view compassion? What does that mean to you?
I think compassion is an act of love, and it is just a way to look at someone with a little bit more grace. Mm-hmm. And I think that we need compassion for ourselves more than anyone else. I think we've been shown how to be compassionate towards other people. We have a lot of examples of how to be compassionate with other people. A lot of people use Jesus as their example. People use the Buddha. But we have a hard time having that compassion on ourselves. And that is like my goal in life, is for people to reconnect with themselves so that they can give themselves that love, the care, the compassion, the tenderness, the grace, the forgiveness, all of these things that we've been taught to give other people, we can give them to ourselves. And once we do that, I mean, you're just going to radiate like the sun, and life is going to start happening for you because it's not just for everyone else. It has so much power to change your inner world, and everybody needs that love.
Yeah. I love that. I truly, and this is why I asked this question, because it means something different to everybody personally, on a personal level. Like, we can all talk about the definition of compassion, but what that looks like lived out. And it makes sense based on your experience and what you do, that would be the most important piece of compassion to you. So thank you so much for doing this with me. I had a blast meeting you and talking to you, and go ahead and shout out your stuff.
Okay, great. So my one-on-one coaching will always start with a free session. So that gives us an idea of, where you are in your life, what you're looking for, if my services and my style is the right fit for you. So you can book a free visioning session at KarenJaneDeWitt.co. And you can always email me, KarenJaneDeWitt@gmail.com. And you can find me all over the socials. Instagram is where I spend the most time, and it's just Karen Jane DeWitt. My podcast, Juggling Joy, you can follow on Instagram at Juggling Joy Podcast.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to The Human Experience. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe, share it with others, and leave a rating and review on your favorite platform. Everyone has a story, and I'd love to hear yours, so be sure to check out the show notes for more information about how to stay in touch. Do good and take care.